That test paper covered in red marks? It's not actually proof of how smart you are. It's just a factory's production report. So, do I really have no brains at all, or is this school just a cage built for me? Psychologists say that countless brilliant people grow up thinking they're completely ordinary, all because of a mechanical school system. But this is where the biggest, scariest truth is hiding. The one your school will never let you find out. Maybe you're the kind of person who stays up late reading about the mysteries of black holes online, but then forgets to turn in a simple assignment the next morning at school. Your margins are never straight, your backpack is a mess, and your teachers write "smart but lazy" on your report card. So why do so many quiet, smart students end up with such average or bad grades in school? According to recent data, more than 45% of creatively intelligent kids keep getting C's and D's in class, simply because they can't fit into the standard mold. But the real secret is hidden inside that mechanical structure of school and the education system, the one that slowly cripples our brains step by step. I'm Ryan, and today, on Ryan Findings, we're going to break down the real psychology behind this mechanical mold. When we picture a super smart person, the image that pops into our head is the glasses-wearing top student, the #1 kid in class. But the real truth from psychology is completely different from what we're used to believing, and it flips the whole thing on its head. Psychologists believe that real intelligence doesn't depend on rote memorization or your exam grades. But school convinces us that the only smart ones are the kids who blindly follow every single order the teacher gives. Just like when you're stuck in that brutal traffic jam at Shahbag in Dhaka, waiting and waiting for the signal to change until you forget where you were even headed, our minds get stuck at school's red ink signal too. This whole thing where our brains get judged by the red ink of an exam. It really works like a rigid, cruel mechanical mold, or a cookie cutter. When you press a lump of dough into a cookie cutter, only the part that fits inside the shape survives. And the part that spills over the edges, the part that's a little bigger or more unique than the frame, gets sliced off and tossed in the trash. School doesn't really teach us anything real. It just teaches us to memorize and to fill up those blank white pages with ink. You might just be a piece of gold that got sliced off by that cookie cutter, the one school mistook for plain dough and threw in the dustbin. So why does the top kid in class get an A so easily just by memorizing, while I get scolded the moment I try to think a little deeper? Historically, the modern school system was actually designed to produce factory workers during the 19th century Industrial Revolution, where being obedient mattered way more than being smart. But here's the most alarming part. This 150-year-old mechanical cookie cutter is still trying to trim our unique minds down to size today. Schools claim they value talent, but in reality they reward obedience far more than they ever reward creativity. Honestly, some discipline is good for all of us, and I'm not going to sit here and say rules are all bad. But the problem starts when that discipline tries to turn a person into a blind robot. The student who can just swallow whatever the teacher says and spit it back out word for word on the exam, that's the one who gets treated the best in school. But the ones who ask questions a little differently, who want to break the rules or figure out a new way of doing things, they get slapped with the label disobedient or average. This kind of mental torture builds a deep fear and guilt inside us that blocks our true potential forever. And that creates something called the perfectionist freeze. A strange, paralyzing mental state where you're obsessed with getting everything perfect. Gifted kids get used to being labeled smart or gifted from a very young age. And that label drops an invisible but heavy weight on their shoulders. The belief that they're not allowed to make a single mistake. If they slip up even on something small, their subconscious tells them their whole identity is about to be exposed as a lie. So the moment they face a tough assignment or project, their brain jumps 10 steps ahead and starts calculating every possible way it could fail. This overanalysis, this paralysis by analysis, freezes them up so badly that they can't even get started. Instead of doing the work, they shove it in a corner and end up with a 0, all because they're terrified they won't be able to make it perfect. To teachers, this might look like pure laziness or a sign of average intelligence, but it's actually a complex self-defense battle going on inside their brain. And so they keep falling further behind, and their belief in themselves shatters for good. But it doesn't stop there. School's slow-paced curriculum turns into an even bigger mental prison for them. Gifted brains just can't stand that slow learning style built for average students, and they start suffering from serious boredom. When a brain gets way less input than it can actually handle, it falls into extreme neurological boredom. Neuroimaging studies have shown that when the brain isn't getting stimulated by a task, a part of it called the default mode network fires up intensely. In this state, students stare out the classroom window, doodle random stuff in their notebooks, or just get lost in their own daydreams. They're not slacking off, though. Their hungry brain just isn't getting fed, so it's building an entire world of imagination instead. So on exam day, when these students lose points over simple, boring mistakes, school stamps them as average. But behind those mediocre grades, an unbelievably creative mind is slipping away. And does school ever even notice? We've reached the very end of our discussion, where we'll finally find the solution to all of this. The truth is, school can't destroy our intelligence forever, not if we stay just a little bit aware. Wait, I'm getting this wrong. School doesn't just destroy our intelligence. It actually forces us to live and think in a completely different way. And the real psychological reasons behind this different lifestyle of ours are even deeper and stranger. So why is my desk such a mess, and why do all my best ideas hit me late at night? Research shows that about 54% of highly creative people are actually chronic night owls, and their workspaces tend to be super messy and disorganized. But here's the really frustrating part. School labels this messy creativity as incompetence or laziness and knocks down their grades for it. They want every notebook spotless, every margin straight, and everybody out of bed by 5 in the morning. But science has proven that a messy environment actually helps the brain come up with fresh, unique ideas in a big way. A night owl's brain, once the whole world is asleep, can solve the toughest problems in that calm, quiet, noise-free space. School denies this scientific fact and tries to chain everyone to the same set of rules. And anyone who steps outside those rules gets their grades cut and gets kept in the box as an average student. This mechanical chain even puts a kind of invisible tax on our social relationships. Gifted people can't just make friends with everyone that easily, because they love to think deeply. They feel really uncomfortable with basic pleasantries and small talk, and they'd rather get into a deep conversation. So why do people think I'm so arrogant or such a loner, when really I just can't find enough depth to talk to them about? Psychological data shows that highly intelligent people get bored with small talk really fast, and in about 70% of cases they end up dealing with loneliness and social isolation. But it doesn't end there. In that school society where everyone's pushed into the same mold, this natural quietness gets branded as some kind of disease or arrogance. Classmates and teachers start avoiding them, which grinds their confidence right into the dirt. They pull into their shells, and their performance on exams starts getting even worse. That's when they realize that to survive in this mechanical society, they've got to hide their own intelligence. Trying to keep up with everyone else in class, they kill off their true selves and start acting like an average person. But will school ever take responsibility for this mental death? Or do they just get off the hook by drawing a few red ink marks? This brutal truth forces us to step outside the school system and reassess our own intelligence from scratch. If we can't heal these wounds, we'll never be able to touch our real potential. This process of setting ourselves free is the real biggest test of our lives. And to pass that test, We've got to forget those red ink report cards for good. Your intelligence isn't some cheap little thing you can trap inside a four-cornered cookie cutter. Even if you were an average or middling student in school, remember this: your brain didn't fail. It was that mechanical education system that failed to understand the huge, endless creative universe inside you. Intelligence can't be measured by writing 30 pages of answers or by sitting through a 3-hour mechanical exam. I'm not sure there's any single magic fix for this problem, because the way our brains are wired is way more complex than any mechanical school system. But this much I'm sure of: that unique spark, that intelligence inside you, isn't gone yet. And the responsibility to wake it back up now rests entirely on your own shoulders. You've got to break out of that rigid, cruel grid, that mechanical cage school built for you. Somewhere your messy desk, your sleep-deprived eyes, and your deep thoughts won't be brushed aside. Somewhere your mistakes aren't treated like crimes, but welcomed as a wonderful way to learn. You don't need some red ink A-grade certificate to prove that you're unique and extraordinary. Your limitless creativity is your greatest strength and your real identity. From today on, whenever you start feeling ordinary or average, just remember this cookie-cutter story. Your brain didn't fail. That rigid, cruel, mechanical education system did. Believe in yourself, because your real path lies far outside this mechanical mold. So how did you like today's video, and were you a victim of this cookie-cutter system at school too? Do you think our schools will ever really be able to recognize true talent? Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on that bell icon, and share this video with your friends. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because every single comment you leave shows us a new way forward. So, for developing real talent, strict discipline, or complete freedom, which one do you think matters more?